Good morning. Welcome back to Q and Amaco. I'm Kara, and we're back with another episode of me painting this beautiful cake dish. And I'm going to try out something different today as well with Underglaze and satin mats. But in the meantime, if you have any questions for me, good morning, Crystal. Good to see you. Not see you, but you know what I mean. See your comment. If you have any questions for me, please go ahead and drop them in the comments. Hi, Janet. Good morning. So just to recap for anybody who is seeing this video this morning or in the replay, what I'm doing here is I am using the semi-moist underglazes, Amaco semi-moist underglazes, on top of 3 coats of SM11 white, that's the satin matte white, and yes, normally underglazes go underneath and you put a clear glaze over, and I certainly love using the SMUGs for that, and I use them for that frequently, and I do have a sample here that I can show you later with SMUGs and a clear glaze over, but I love using them on top of a glaze for decorative surfaces. Now, they have not been tested for food safety this way, so I do not recommend that you use this on food surfaces. It's just for decorative surfaces. So for this cake tray, you can see I'm leaving the white surface unglazed. I might at some point put another satin mat on here just to bring some color in, but I think I'm probably just going to leave it white and just use my octopus design. So what I do to prep my semi-moist underglazes, let me switch so you'll still see me, but you can also see my work surface. So this is an underglaze applicator that I have some water in. You don't necessarily need to use an underglaze applicator, but I use a little bit of water, and I put a few drops on the colors that I plan on using. And I've already done it with a bunch of the colors because it takes, I'd say, between 5 and 10 minutes for the colors to soften up properly. And I like to let them sit for a little while so that they soften up. They're easier to use. I'm going to put a few more drops on a couple of these that I think I might use today. And if you don't end up using them, it's not a big deal. The semi-moist underglazes are meant to dry out between uses, so you don't need to worry about that. Let's see, what other colors do I need? Different things, so I'm going to use my small brush. So if you have questions for me today, to hear them and possibly answer them. I do have an update, which I'll get into a little bit later, about our Friday stream. So I use the SMUGs, like I've said, just like using an underglaze. Just like using watercolor. So I work from light to dark, because just like using regular underglazes, it's really hard to layer lighter colors over darker ones when you're using glaze or underglaze of any kind. So if you have any experience with watercolors, you will find the SMUGs to be very, very similar. Also wanted to try something out today. I've been trying to figure out if there is a good way to zoom in with my camera. And I have not found one, but I want to see, try something out here, see if my camera will focus close in. It wants to focus on the background, but look at there, we can get details up close. All right, that's hard to see when I'm moving around. Okay. So yes, you can see some details, but I do have a lot of light coming through this window that kind of washes things out. So there we go. There's my octopus in progress. So, like I said, I work from light to dark. Let me get back to where I can see all the comments. Good morning, Nancy. And what did I do with my brush? There it is. So I work from light to dark. So I'm really staying to the lightest colors at this point. I'll be starting to get some darker colors in here. Hello, Lisa. I did pick a Friday name, and I'll be announcing it in a little bit. I wanted to give viewers a chance to be here if we have any other questions. So the Friday video will not be glaze focused. It will be clay focused, and mostly will probably be sculptural, hand building, but also throwing vessels, but it's mostly going to be about clay rather than glaze. I know that there are a lot of videos and live streams that are about making things in clay. I know that you come to my live stream for glazing, because there aren't as many videos that really talk about glazing as there are that talk about clay in general. But I did want to give you guys an insight into our studio and making, and there will probably be some glazing happening too. But it's just going to be a lot of different things. So it was really hard to pick a name that would kind of reflect all of that content in one place, in a live stream. But I think we managed. So I will talk about that in a little bit. Looks like we might have splattered a little bit of black. I don't know how that got on there. I've got a little bit of black underglaze on my cake stand. So I may have to show you how I clean up things when they get where I don't want them to be. Anella, hi, good morning. My question is about achieving a matte background with a glossy design on a ceramic surface. Is there a way to get that effect with underglaze, but having the surfaces be vitrified enough to be stain resistant? Specifically, I'm trying to recreate a tile experiment I did where I painted a bisque tile with black design on top. This low-fire tile is striking and unique, but I imagine it wouldn't work well for a kitchen backsplash or in a bathroom because the surface of the tile isn't completely glazed. Any advice? So you're right. Underglaze is not going to be easy to clean because that surface is not going to be uh, vitrified isn't quite the word I would use, but since it's not glazed, the underglazed surface is going to be very, very difficult to clean. And it would eventually just accumulate more and more uh, uh, dirt, grime, dust, everything, and it would be not really ideal. So there are things you can do. You can try using a satin matte glaze, like our satin matte line has uh, a black glaze, and it is quite strong. Uh, we have the satin matte, all of the satin mattes, and I did do some satin matte mixing recently, so you can see some different colors that you can achieve with the satin mattes. You can try that. That is one option. There are, if you want something that's much more matte looking, it's going to be difficult, but there are some products, I suppose, that can seal clay, like they can seal Saltillo floor tile, which I don't think that's traditionally glazed, but there are products that can seal it. But I think they do give kind of a glaze, not quite shiny surface, but more certainly more satiny look. So I think that your best bet, you can try a satin matte, or you can try like a floor wax, I think, on top of your underglaze to seal it. And I do think they make floor waxes that are like low shine. But I would not recommend just using underglaze. So you were right in your understanding that it would not be stain resistant. So I think Anella, I think that that is a really interesting thing to try out, and I think that you should make some tests and try some different things and see what you like and how they all look, and then try them. You know, get greasy stuff on them, get dirt on them. Kind of, take them outside and step on them and try it out. Get them as dirty as you can and see which one cleans up easiest. I think that that's going to be the best way to make that decision. Anella, you're very welcome. I hope that that turns out. I love the idea of handmade tile in the home, in kitchens, in bathrooms, wherever you want to have decorative tile. I love it. So I hope you can find something that really works and is easy to take care of. So you notice I've been kind of glazing around the black spot because I didn't want to get it wet yet. So Dana Lynn asks, Hi, can SMUGs be used over Celadon snow the same way I'm using it over the satin mats? And the answer is mostly. Mostly. What in the world is that? It's hard. And it's shiny. I have no idea what that is. I thought it was like a little bit of underglaze or glaze, but interesting. So, Dana, the answer is yes. Yes, you can use the SMUGs over Celadon snow in much the same way that you use, here we go, I'm just going to chisel it off. I'm answering two questions at the same time. In much the same way that you use the satin mat and the SMUGs, you can do the same thing with Celadon snow. Oh, this doesn't want to open. However, the SMUGs may move a little bit. You'll notice this was my trick for getting the lid off, but it doesn't seem to want to come off. I do have another jar though, so hang on, I'm going to disappear for a moment. I'm going to have to work on that one a little bit more. But I have another jar, so it's okay. The Celadon snow might move a little bit, so sometimes the SMUGs don't stay exactly where you put them, and they will look a little glossier when they're done. So I'm just going to touch up a little bit more glaze there, because otherwise there would be no glaze on that spot. Hi Tina, you're on vacation, but you didn't want to miss this. Aw, thank you. You know that these are always saved to our YouTube. They are in our Facebook, and they're also on our YouTube, and I've arranged our YouTube playlists so that the live streams are the first thing you see on our channel right behind the welcome video. And so they're easier to find than they were before. And so you can always tune in again, but I'm glad that you are tuning in today, Tina. It is great whenever I have people tuning in. It means a lot. Sometimes I do kind of feel like I'm just in a room by myself, talking to myself. And so it is very reassuring and helpful when everybody is here. Hi, Susan. First few times I did these videos, it was actually, I could not see the comments, which was actually kind of helpful. So then I didn't have to worry about whether anybody was tuning in or not. I'm going to start working on my other octopus. And I think I want to make him a little bit more orangey, reddish color. So I'm going to start with a light red. Ooh, a little too much water there. So Cindy, Evelyn says, excellent that you separated the live videos on YouTube. Thank you. So they've always been separate, but I made them easier to find, because before you had to kind of go hunting for them. So now, as soon as you go to the Amaco Brent YouTube page, they are the first playlist, and they are in reverse order. So starting with the most recent and going to the oldest live streams. And these are only the ones from the last year, not going all the way back to when I started 3 years ago, but about 18 months ago. Valerie says, good morning from Las Vegas. And Cindy asks, are SMUGs much different from watercoloring and mixing colors with the velvets? And Cindy, they are different. The colors themselves are very similar, but the formulation is different. And yes, they will work differently than just watering down the velvets. Among other things, because of the way that they are made, it is possible to go on top of a glaze without the glaze getting too matte or rough, because velvets, like all other underglazes, regardless of who makes them, all underglazes have a fairly substantial clay content. And so you're basically putting clay on top of your into your colorants. So to get really specific, underglazes are basically slips, which are colored clay, that have chemistry, usually a little bit of flux added to them, just enough so that they will stick and not shrink on fired ware. Where slips have to be put on greenware, unfired clay, so that they can shrink with it. Underglazes generally are able to be put on bisqueware because they won't shrink too much. So that is, but they do have clay content, just like a slip. The SMUGs have very, very, very little clay content. And so when you paint them on top of a glaze, they're not going to interact like putting a clay on top of a glaze. It's just color with a little bit of flux and a little bit of clay, just a tiny, tiny bit. And unlike just using colorants straight, they stay in this matrix where you can re-wet them again and again, just like a watercolor. So the answer is they work differently than a velvet. They also work differently than a velvet even when you're using them before you put a glaze over them, because they are more concentrated color, and so you don't have to do 3 coats to make them opaque like you do with a velvet. To make them opaque, you add more water and kind of work it up. That's why I add the water and let it sit, because I can make really opaque color that way. You can't really do that with the velvets. It's going to work. You can't make just one thick coat. Anella asks another question about surface texture being glossy versus matte. Would there be a way to create a glossy background with a glossy white, for example, and use an underglaze on top for the design to achieve the texture contrast with glossy and matte? Is that similar to the Maiolica technique? Maiolica is not going to give you glossy and matte, and you can put velvet underglazes on top of a gloss glaze and they will make it more matte. However, they're also possibly going to bubble. Sometimes they won't, and it just depends on the exact glazes and underglazes that you're using. You'd have to try that out. I'm not really sure. I think you could, but I'm not entirely certain. Interesting question. You're very welcome. Cindy is saying thank you for great info about the SMUG content. And Maura says, I always try and tune in. I'm so glad. I am grateful for everybody who tunes into these live streams, who's part of our Facebook community, who watches our YouTube videos, you know, who buys our products. I really appreciate it. And I really enjoy sharing all the information I can about how to use our products. So I did promise that I would have an update about our Friday stream. And number one, just for those of you who may not have heard, I will be starting this Friday, I'm starting a live stream on Friday mornings, Eastern Time. I'm planning on starting at about 10:30 Eastern Time. So that's an hour earlier than this stream starts. And it'll probably run a half an hour to an hour. I don't know for sure which one. I guess it depends on what we're doing that day and how busy we are and how much we have to do in the studio, as well as if anybody has questions while I'm working. And the name of the stream, I know this is the thing you've all been waiting for. The name of the stream is Clay to Z. And so the winner of our prize of PC Flux glazes is Brianna, and I did not write her name down before I started the stream today, so I do not remember her last name, but I will be messaging her as soon as the stream is over. Thank you, everybody. There were some phenomenal names. The name of the stream is Clay to Z, and because we are covering pretty much everything about clay and it may change. So our Friday stream is Clay to Z. I hope that you tune in and join me. I will be working on projects that may end up being glazed in our Glazing with Amaco or Q and Amaco days. So you may be able to see projects go from beginning to end. And Krista is asking, how do I order the SMUGs? So Krista, contact the distributor wherever you buy Amaco glazes and ask them if they have any semi-moist underglazes, also known as SMUGs, if they have any SMUGs for you to order. I know that many of our distributors carry the SMUGs. I know that a few do not, just because they're not as sure about them, but I know most of our distributors do carry SMUGs. And just give them a call or check their website. They would have them listed under Underglazes. You can also Google Amaco semi-moist underglazes, and you should find some places to purchase them. If you're looking for distributors near you, go to our website, amaco.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, and there is a tab at the very bottom that says to find a dealer near you, and we have a database of Amaco dealers. So you can find whoever is in your state or country or region and give them a call. And they should have all the information on there. So Marie says, I love watching you paint and excited to be watching you on Friday mornings. Thank you. I'm really excited to be doing the Friday morning stream. I think Clay to Z is going to be a lot of fun, and I certainly will be answering questions while I work. It's going to be a little bit more basic than this because it looks like to start I'm going to be going back to using my cell phone for streaming. So we'll just see how that goes. And if anybody happens to wander into the marketing studio, you're going to be introduced. So I have warned everybody at Amaco that if they don't want to be on video, they need to stay out of the studio on Friday morning. But I have a few people who I know are going to show up, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So you'll be meeting some more people who are part of our company, and it's going to be great. We have such a great team. And I know that everybody's used to just hearing from me on our social media and in these live streams, but there are so many people at Amaco that go into making this an amazing company and making the products fantastic. So I can't wait for everybody to part of this. Does it sound good? Ah, good. Valerie, you just got them. You just got your SMUGs off of Amazon? Sounds great. You'll have to let us know how you like them. They really are beautiful, and one of the things that I really love about them is that I can walk away at this point. I can clean my brush and just set everything down, and they can dry, and I can come back tomorrow and they will be fine. You know, I wanted to try something today, and I got so wound up in my painting I forgot about it. But someone today was showing on the Amaco Cone 5-6 Glaze forum on Facebook how they put an underglaze transfer over toasted sage. And I remembered how some years ago I actually did a test where I put an underglaze transfer over the white satin mat. And I thought, I think I should probably show you guys that. So I'm going to put a couple coats of the white satin mat. I know this is going long today. I've got a couple coats of that. I just have a little scrap of, I know, you're so shocked, it's octopus tentacle underglaze transfer. And yes, this is a commercial underglaze transfer. And I'm going to transfer this onto the glaze once it's dried. So I'm going to set that aside while I do a little bit more. So any other questions for us today? I covered up that black spot. I still have no idea what that was. It was hard. It was like paint, but we don't have any black paint in this room, so I do not know. So next week, I think I might work on this a little bit. I might even bring it into the studio on Friday to do a little bit more. Next week, I'd like to work on the little fish over here. I've been trying to figure out what is a good fish. Do I have a sample of what the transfer looks like once you place it over the glaze? No, I don't. But I'm going to do this, and then I will fire it, and I'll show it in the next Q and Amaco in 2 weeks. I hope that isn't too long. Actually, over the satin mat, it worked just fine. It looked exactly like you would expect. It did not flow. I have tried this over celadons, and sometimes they get a little fuzzy looking. Just spent today doing a lot of water. Pretty much just water. Okay. set that aside. Now, I did not do 3 coats, but this is just going to be a little sample. So I take my glaze tile. Sorry, I can't zoom in at the moment. And I have my underglaze transfer. I put it face down on the tile. I have a sponge. Where did my sponge go? You know, how often do we lose our sponges? I'm sure that everybody does this. Oh my gosh, it fell on the floor. That's why I couldn't find my sponge, because it's on the floor. So David's on vacation, so I don't have my usual help. Okay, so it's face down. I have a damp sponge, and I just lightly, I don't want to do this too much because I could make the glaze get too wet. Just pat, 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 make the underglaze transfer damp. There we go. Peel it back. Look at that. Isn't that crisp? So, let's see if I can show it to you up close. This is such an awkward, hang on, let me see if I'm in frame. Come on, focus. There we go. Look at that. Isn't that crisp? Super crisp. So I'm going to fire this to cone 5 this week, and I will bring it back in 2 weeks and show you what it looks like. I'm also going to try the toasted sage, because I know that that is a really stiff glaze and it's pretty light color, as well as the satin matte. I'm trying to think of other glazes that are stiff in the PC line, and I may try it over some Celadon as well, just to see and just to show you all how that turns out. So let's see. We have this. I'm going to try it with the Celadon. I'm going to try it with the toasted sage. I just want to see how underglaze transfers look on different glazes, because you know, that would open up even more options. I know that lots of us love underglaze transfers. They add just a little extra something, and if you can do them on top of a color, that would be a lot of fun. So I will see you all on Friday with Clay to Z, and congratulations to Brianna, and thank you all for joining me on my glazing adventures for another week.